All right, ladies and gents, let's get straight into how to start a marketing agency with no money. It doesn't matter if you're doing SMMA, SEO, PPC, CRO. I don't care what kind of marketing agency you want to do, even if it's a product photography agency. It doesn't even have to be a marketing agency, to be honest. I just said marketing agency. However, I've had a lot of people ask me, if you lost everything, because our agency is doing roughly around $100,000 per month, if you lost everything, how would you start over? That's a really fun question to answer, so I'm excited to present these slides to you here, which is going to be very simple. But let's get straight into this, because likely if you're watching this video, you're thinking, I want to get to like $5,000, $10,000 per month, and I don't even have one client. How can I get one client? Or maybe you have one client, but you want to get 10. This video will help you, all right? So here's what we're going to cover: picking a niche, signing clients with Trojan marketing, and then service delivery, right? These are the three foundations when you're starting out. So picking a niche, I've talked about this before, but curiosity is super important. What kind of service are you most curious about, fascinated about, / you really could obsess over it, okay? It doesn't need to be a love. It just has to be a curiosity, a genuine fascination. For me, I was fascinated with advertising. I didn't care what type of advertising I got into. I just picked Amazon advertising, PPC, because I was like, damn, this is really freaking cool. And my dad also purchased a small little Amazon business, quote unquote, and that was also highly beneficial and very lucky. So Ikigai, it's this Japanese concept we'll get into: level 4 niche and blue ocean. Let's start with this Japanese concept. Now, this is a more in-depth chart that I recommend you look at when it comes to picking a niche. But ladies and gents, don't overthink this. Spend like at most 3, maybe 4 days doing some research and picking a niche. If you spend any more than like 3 to 4 days, man, you're wasting too much time. Now, I know that some people are gonna say and harp on that and say, oh my God, no, you need to do your research, blah, blah, blah. No. Look, like there's, even in the most competitive niches where you see tons of people gain results, you can go in there and still win, even though they're bloody red oceans, which we'll get into in a second. But don't spend more than 3 to 4 days trying to pick a niche. Don't overthink it. Just get freaking rolling, all right? So picking a niche, very simply, I recommend you pause this video and read this. I don't need to explain this. It's pretty self-explanatory. Now, the dimensions of niches is pretty interesting, okay? We'll get into explaining that in a second, but actually I just explained it in a previous video, so I don't think I'm going to explain it too in depth. Literally the video right before this one, it's called SMMA Niche Strategy, and I highly recommend you go watch that video. It goes really in depth on the dimensions of niches, and of course this previous diagram here as well. So we won't get too much into that, but if you want to learn how to pick a niche, those are great resources. Otherwise, just don't spend don't spend more than 3 to 4 days on it, and you can learn how to pick a niche by literally Googling YouTube marketing agency niches. There's tons of videos with tons of different ideas you can look at. I'm not going to sit here and give you the 4 million different niche ideas that you can get into. It's just a simple YouTube search, a simple Google search, watch a few videos. But this is a strategy that's really important that'll help you pick the right niche that'll give you more or less much more fulfillment than just picking a niche that's going to make you a lot of money, okay? I'm sorry this is not a super in-depth 1 hour long video if you're expecting it to be. I'm not going to remake videos that I've already made. So I've spoken about how to pick a niche. You can go watch that video, SMMA Niche Strategy. It's on the channel. Now, that is literally picking a niche. I know we just breezed through that, but blue ocean is actually the one thing I want to touch on, which I didn't touch on. A blue ocean, ladies and gentlemen, is just an ocean where there is much more demand than there is supply. So when I got into Amazon advertising with Better AMS, our advertising agency, 4 years ago in 2016, there was so few agencies providing Amazon advertising as a service, but there were so many freaking companies that needed that service, and yet it wasn't there. So the demand for an Amazon advertising agency way outweighed the supply of how many actual agencies there were. There was probably only a few dozen agencies at the time. It was a very, very, very tight niche, if you will. So signing clients with Trojan Horse Marketing. Okay, let's get into this. Now, this isn't the only way. This is just one of the ways that I recommend when you're starting out, because outbound is a way that gives you feedback very instantly. Inbound marketing takes time. The nurturing, the content, it takes time. And so outbound is nice when you're getting started because it just gives you that rapid, quick feedback that you need so you don't waste 6 months trying to test out a niche. You can spend just 2 to 4 weeks. Now, Trojan Horse Marketing, I've talked about this before. It's something that's made our agency probably over $500,000 at this point. And this is the metrics from when we initially started Trojan Horse Marketing. I think it was back in 2016 2017. And this is only 254 companies that we contacted. We booked 24 calls. We signed 8 clients. The booking rate is really high. The close rate was really high. And now those are all the clients that we ended up signing in the months that we retained them. And this isn't all the data. This is just a few of the data. Probably one of the top performing videos on our YouTube channel right now is Trojan Horse Marketing, the #1 agency lead generation strategy. I highly recommend you check it out. It explains the strategy in depth. But what Trojan Horse Marketing is essentially a process where you're just sending a video to the prospect. It could be a Loom video. It could be a Screencastify video. There's tons of these simple Google Chrome extension video software, recording softwares that will allow you to send free videos in the form of a link. And you can also integrate a call booking call to action at the end of the video, which is highly recommended. And that's what Trojan Horse Marketing is. It's a video that you send out to this ideal prospect. Now, the actual real Trojan Horse strategy is an automated video. I don't recommend you start out with an automated video. I recommend you just do manual freaking videos when you start out. When I was starting out in 2017 and I had like 1 or 2 clients and even actually 0 clients, this was my method. It was Trojan Horse Marketing, except it was manual, and I was sending videos out, and I was 18, 19 years old. Ended up signing a lot of clients very quickly using this method, and it created all kinds of chaos, and I couldn't handle the scale, and I needed to grow up and mature a little bit and understand how to run a company. It took a few years, all right? So these are a few screenshots of back in 2017 sending these messages to people on LinkedIn and email, and that's an example of the video right there. So now let's just get more in depth on what Trojan Horse Marketing actually is. So first of all, when it comes to signing clients, the first step is to define your ICP. So if you've picked your niche, that's fantastic. Pick your niche. Great. Let's just say that you want to start an Amazon advertising agency. You're an agency that provides Amazon PPC as a service to companies that are selling products on Amazon. That's a pretty specific niche, okay? It's not like your typical full-service agency that is doing web design, SEO, CRO, PPC, product photography. They're doing the whole thing. They're doing the whole 9 yards, and that is your typical person who starts an agency. You don't want to be that, okay? So let's use that example because that's what our agency, Better AMS, actually does. Great. Then let me get a little bit more clear on our ICP. ICP is just ideal client profile. You probably are familiar with the buyer persona. I think that's, or client avatar. Those are the common ones. I love ICP. It's all the same thing. And when you build your ICP, let's just hypothetically say that you want to work with companies on Amazon that are doing at least 7 figures per year, and that's as simple as that. And they're based out of the US or the UK or any first world country that is predominantly speaking English. That's primarily actually what our ICP is, one of our ICPs within our agency. It's really that simple in a certain sense. So I highly recommend when you start out defining your ICP that you can find these ICPs on LinkedIn or Facebook. It just gives you a really easy head start when you can find these people on LinkedIn or Facebook, because LinkedIn and Facebook, it's so direct. You just add the person. If they accept, holy shit, now you have a direct phone line. Literally, you could call the person on Facebook. That's how crazy it is, man. But on LinkedIn, you can just message them, or on Facebook, you can message them, and it's beautiful. I mean, you're going to get like probably an 80% seen. Like the message is going to be 80% of the time seen by the person that you send it to, assuming they accepted your friend request or your connection request on LinkedIn or Facebook, okay? So these are great platforms to start out on just because of the deliverability of the message that you're going to be sending. Now, the acceptance rate may not be too high if you're just, because people are going to see you and you're more or less going to be some random person. But if you optimize your LinkedIn profile, you optimize your Facebook profile to say that you are an expert at Amazon advertising and this is what you do and you help companies on Amazon, you guys have probably seen tons of videos on how to optimize your LinkedIn profile. I'm not going to get into that, or how to optimize your Facebook profile. It's pretty simple. You basically just tell the person what you do and how you help them, and you don't need to go much further than that. There's way more in-depth strategies, but it doesn't really move the needle a whole lot. Now, once you have defined your ICP and you've made sure that ICP is finding people that are only on LinkedIn or Facebook to give you the best chance of success as quickly as possible, then you want to start list building. So you want to start building your actual list. Now, I highly recommend you use a Google Sheet. I have a Google Sheet process that is within the Trojan Horse Marketing video. If you go there, you'll be able to see it. It's a sheet. I think it's shown in that video, but again, I'm not going to go and show a bunch of stuff I've already shown before. You begin building the list. You should be able to find 10 to 20 people per day. ICPs by yourself, you alone. Now, if you can hire a virtual assistant, that's great. But this is a video trying to tell you how to be able to sign clients and start an agency with no money. So that pretty much means you can't afford to hire a VA. But if you can, I highly recommend you do, because a virtual assistant costs $1 to $2 in the Philippines or elsewhere. I like to hire out of the Philippines. If you want to hire somebody, use onlinejobs.ph. It's a great website. Highly recommend it. And that person should be able to find 10 to 20 people per day, assuming you've done a good job of training them, or you can find them yourself. You should store their contact information in a Google Sheet. So pretty much all you need to do is, okay, the link to the person's LinkedIn or Facebook profile or both, and then pretty much just their company name, maybe a link to their website, and that is pretty much all you need. And then maybe a column that states whether or not you sent them a connection request or a friend request, and then another column that states whether or not they accepted that connection request, and another column that states whether or not you sent them a Trojan Horse video and actually contacted them about the service that you're providing. And that's pretty much as simple as the sheet needs to be. Now, I know I'm going 100 miles an hour right now, but really I'm reiterating a lot of stuff I've made in previous videos. I'm just trying to condense this into one quick 10 to 15 minute video for you. And then you can do further research on other videos that give you more in-depth insights into the strategies I'm talking about. But this is a giant holistic, high-level bird's eye view. Now, outreach. So to actually outreach, send these Trojan Horse videos to these people. Again, I recommend manual videos. You don't need to automate the video process in the beginning. If you're just getting started, just send manual videos. Don't try to automate things and automate stuff, because it's just get started, get a few clients, and then you can start automating stuff, and that's fun. But craft a video, a valuable video. Now, it should be transparent and integrous. Okay, you don't want to lie about stuff. Really, don't lie. If you start lying about results, you start lying about your knowledge and your expertise and all this and blah blah blah, it's going to be subconsciously felt. I'm of the belief that you can't just like lie. People are going to know that you're lying, even if it's on a subconscious level. So be transparent, be integrous, try to provide as much value as you can, and just I made the mistake of doing Trojan Horse marketing in the beginning, I think, of being very ruthless and calling out mistakes that the prospect was making. And to a certain degree, it worked really well. I mean, if we go back here, we signed a lot of clients, but I think it was primarily because we were in a blue ocean. And if you're in more of a competitive market or a sensitive market that does receive a lot of cold email and cold outreach, you should probably be a bit more soft and not try to be so ruthless with your message. Design your message and your video in a way that is loving. Unconditionally loving is typically the approach that I'll take nowadays with Trojan Horse marketing. So a heart-based approach. Instead of saying, hey, I saw you're making a few mistakes with your website, we'll go about saying, hey, I noticed that there's a few areas of the website where you can make tremendous improvements that would allow you to be able to increase your sales by $100,000 per month. Here's the 3 things I think you can do. If you want to talk more about this, that's great. I'd love to talk more about it with you. Here's a link to my calendar. It's at the top of this video. You can just click that book a call button, and I'd be happy to hop on a call with you. So really, that's as simple as what a Trojan Horse video is, manually done. I think there's people who talk about this in other people who have channels on how to start and scale an agency, but really you're sending a simple, I would say less than 1.5 minute video. It does not need to be 5 minutes long. Dear Lord, don't make it 5 minutes long. Really, if you can make it extremely valuable and it's 5 minutes, that's great, but just keep it down to 1.5. You don't need to send it. It could even be as low as 1 minute. The shorter, the better in the beginning, because you're just starting out, you're just getting feedback, and generally speaking, if you're just starting out, you're not an expert quite yet. So to try to speak about something for 5 minutes, it's not really a good idea. Just keep it simple, keep it MVP, minimum viable product, and send out 500 of these Trojan Horse videos as soon as possible. Now let's do the math. If you can find 10 to 20 people per day, ideally 20 people per day, we're talking about 100 people a week. We're talking about 400 people per month. That's 1,200 people every quarter. So within a span of 90 days, you should be able to find 1,200 ICPs. Let's say you connect with only 20%. It's likely going to be 10 to 15%, but let's just say 10%. So it's 120 ICPs that you found and you sent videos to. Now, you could have potentially sent videos to the people you didn't connect with. Like if you're running this Trojan Horse marketing strategy, which I recommend you go watch the video for more details on. But if you're running this strategy where you're sending the video in the initial connection or friend request invite, if you're sending it in there, well, that's different. You'll send 1,200 Trojan Horse videos in the span of 90 days. But if you're sending it once you connect, it's all up to your connection rate, and a low end connection rate is like 5%. A decent connection rate could be like 10 to 15%. A great connection rate could be 15, 20, 25%. This is assuming you're just getting started and you have no network at all on LinkedIn and no content or anything. You just have a basic profile. Okay. So try to send out 500 as soon as you can. It might take a while depending on the niche, how saturated it is, how much of a blue ocean it is, but really you just want to send 500 as soon as possible. If you send 100 and you don't get a single discovery call booked, it's not a good sign. Okay, you should probably either tweak the video or change the ICP. 100 is still not a lot of data. I like 200 a lot more than 100. 200 actual Trojan horse videos that you sent that got seen by the person you sent it to. That's kind of an ideal threshold that you should look for. 100 is still decent. I wouldn't freak out if you only get one call booked at 100 because it's still not a lot of data. Okay, so ideally, you have a domain and you have a super basic email set up that is under your domain's name. I would say keep your domain name, broad/vague, so that if you need to change your niche, you can, and you can just quickly change your website in like 2 seconds. But I know a website costs like, I don't know, $25 to set up, maybe $40 to set up and host it for a couple months, a few months. So that is, if we're really trying to get rid of that and say start an agency with 0, I mean, I recommend you start up a simple website and you get your email so you can cold email people from like a legit, business looking email. It kind of looks unprofessional if you email people with a Gmail. All right. So with that being said, you will need to at least spend like $50, but that's very minimalistic. Now, that is pretty much it on the outreach side. You can use Loom, you can use Screencastify. I recommend you use Calendly for your call scheduler. Those are all free. At least I think so. It looks like Loom may be charging now, but your 2-step sales process is quite simple. So you should leverage audit-based selling. This is, first of all, don't ever try to do a one-call close when you're just getting started. I did that, and my first client was, in fact, let me think of this. I think it was a one-call close, because the person who I originally learned how to start an agency from was Sam Ovens. That was kind of the Consulting Accelerator was the course I went through that kind of really showed me the pathway to picking a niche and reaching out to people and getting clients and all of that. And that got me to about 10 or 15, 20K a month. And then from there on out, it was completely useless and not helpful at all. And Sam actually doesn't like the agency model. So we won't go into a rabbit hole on Sam Ovens. If you want to learn more about my experience with him, you can go watch the video I made. Or just search Sam Ovens. It's like the #1 ranked video when you search his name now. But with all of that being said, the 2-step sales process is where you hop on a discovery call, 10-15 minutes, you talk about to the prospect, and you basically ask them questions to more or less qualify them, but also get an understanding of if you can truly help them. So if I hop on a call with you and you're running a business on Amazon or an e-commerce store, I'm going to ask you some questions like, are you spending money on advertising right now? How much money are you guys making per month on average? Okay, you are spending money on advertising. What's your ACoS? What's your ROAS? What are you guys doing on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis? How are you optimizing your ads? How often are you creating new campaigns? I'm just going to ask a bunch of questions to get an understanding of where they're at. And what I like to do is, well, now we do this, but in the beginning, there really wasn't much of a process. But now what we'll do is we'll get access to their account and we'll actually run an audit. In the beginning, I would still recommend getting access to their account or getting access to some form of data, or at least asking them a bunch of questions on the discovery call. And then at the end of the call, telling them, okay, hey, based on what you told me, I'm going to review this and I'm going to be able to give you more or less a basic audit or an analysis on what I think that we could potentially do to help you out in your situation or whether or not it's a good fit. Okay, simple as that. So let's book a call in for tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. Which one works for you? Great. You get the second call booked in. And then you take 24 hours to be able to prep yourself for the sales call, because this is the actual sales call coming up. You don't tell them how much your service is or how much you charge on the first call. If they ask you for the price, you can just tell them, look, it's an audit. We have to do an audit. I mean, I can't tell you because some clients it could be this, some clients it could be that. It really depends on the data that I look at. And if they're really persistent and they want to know, well, what do you charge? I just want to know. You can give them a range. You can say $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 per month, $1,000 to $3,000, $1,000 to $4,000, whatever the range is that you feel comfortable giving, depending on the service that you're providing. But avoid talking about your price or anything on that nature on the first call. Look, when you're running an agency, you're essentially getting married to multiple people. Your clients are the people that you're getting married to. And so if you try to get married to someone on the first date, look, it's just not going to fly. Believe me, it happens sometimes if the person has been warmed up to you. But generally speaking, if you cold call someone and you tell them, hey, I have this SMMA thing, it's $2,000 a month, man. Like that. look, they're not gonna give you $2,000. All right, that's just not how it's gonna work. Generally speaking, you're gonna have a phone call. There's gonna be multiple follow-ups, etc. But with this two-step sales process, you can usually get it done in literally 2 calls. One 15-minute call, and then another call. It's like 20-30 minutes. Sometimes there's a third call. Sometimes there's a third point of contact, like email or back and forth on the deal structure. But it's pretty straightforward. It flows way nicer than a one-call close. Because a one-call close is you're pretty much forcing the sale, and that's not something that's very fun to do. So on the sales call, you get on this call and you'll basically just present to them and say, hey, look, this is what I reviewed. Based on what you told me, I think that it would be a good fit to work together. XYZ, here's why, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Or I don't think it'd be a good fit to work together. Here's why. I'm sorry I can't help you out in this situation. However, this is just the reason why. Maybe it's not a good fit because you determined some reason it's not a good fit. If it is a good fit, give them some reasons why it's a good fit. Ask them if they have any questions about the information that you just told them about. If they don't have any questions, then tell them the price. Okay, I know that there's a lot of classic wisdom out there that says don't ever say your price. Yes, to a certain degree, that's okay. But if they're really not going to ask you your price, you need to tell them your freaking price at some point. Okay, so with all of that, they'll usually respond to the price and say, oh, well, I think that this is a good idea, or I need to think about it, or this or that. And I'm not going to get into objection handling, but there's tons of videos on objection handling and how you can go about that sales process. But generally speaking, I'm not very pushy on the sales process. If someone wants to think about it, I'll happily let them think about it. I will want to ask them, what do you want to think about? Is there any questions I can answer right now on this call? That's why I take the time in this call to try to get to the root cause of what they want to think about. Maybe it's an objection that I haven't yet answered. Maybe they're not sure about something. Maybe they want to know if there's a guarantee. I don't know. The point is at least I can ask them before we hop off the call. All right. So that's the two-step sales process. Now, keep in mind, you don't really need to set up your corporation and all of this. You can be a sole proprietor. I don't know. It depends on the country you live in. In Canada, where I'm from, when I started my agency, you could just sign a client for like $4,000 a month tomorrow. And that's fine. You could take that money into your personal bank account. You could utilize Stripe. You could utilize PayPal. You could utilize a wire transfer. I recommend PayPal or Stripe. Those are usually the two simplest ways to collect money, and wires are generally more friction. But you want to get to wires with higher ticket payments because there's less fees. So that's it. You don't need to worry about a corporation setup too much. You could set up another bank account to take the money into, but just in the beginning, separate the money out. If someone pays you and it goes into your personal bank account, immediately go and open up another account and put all your revenue from clients in that account so you have clean accounting. That's one of the terrible mistakes I made. All the books were mixed and that was just really ugly. But you may need to sign an NDA. Be aware of that in case the person wants an NDA, or if they're hesitant to give you access to their account or tell you certain things on the discovery call. Tell them, hey, look, I have no problem sending it over an NDA. Give me your company name, your company address, your full name. I'll get an NDA sent over to you. You can use companies like softwares like PandaDoc. Actually, PandaDoc is paid. There's softwares or websites you can find that'll give you free NDAs, and you can more or less put in your information. You can put in your personal house address and your name. You're a sole proprietor. So that's pretty much your company is yourself, if you will. So that's the sales process. Now let's get to the service delivery, ladies and gents. Now this is where I feel like there's going to be some dislikes and some negative comments, but let's just get straight into it. Relentless signal hunting. Look, when I started my agency, I really didn't have any experience with Amazon advertising. I had no idea what I was doing, but I was good with numbers and I knew I could figure it out because I was very confident in myself. So when I signed a client, before I signed the client, I'd probably watched maybe 5 or 6 hours of YouTube videos and read different blogs and free courses and podcasts on this topic of Amazon advertising. And then I signed a client. I probably in the first week spent 40 hours, devouring content on all the different things I could find about Amazon advertising, and then applying that information with the client that I had actually signed. Okay, now you might be thinking to yourself, hold on, because Taylor, are you telling me that I shouldn't spend any time thinking about or researching the service delivery aspect before signing a client? I'm saying you should spend very minimal amounts of time researching the service delivery aspect if you're just getting started and you've never launched an agency before. Okay, if you have a ton of agency experience, that's different. Then do your research and you can find that's fine. But starting out, don't spend more than like 4 or 5 hours, maybe 6 hours. I wouldn't spend any more than 20. Seriously, 20 is overkill in my opinion. It's just like a lot. But 20 hours, that's it. No more than that. 10 is fine. Just devouring content about your service. This is prior to you signing any clients. Once you've signed some clients, then you want to go all in on devouring material and applying it to the client that has hired you and that's paid you whatever it is, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 per month. The second option, if you can't handle the freaking pressure because you're a wimp and you're like freaking out that the client's not going to get results and you don't believe in yourself and whatever else, you can hire someone on Upwork, on Fiverr. You can outsource, you give someone commission, you can work out a deal structure, you can white label it to someone else and completely let them do the work and act like you're servicing them when you clearly aren't. I didn't go down that route. I know there's lots of people recommending that. I never went down that route, ladies and gents. So I can't really talk too much about that. I've never white labeled something. I've never outsourced work. I've always done the work. I've always figured it out myself, and I'm of the belief that you need to figure it out yourself. Okay. Yeah, you can white label and you can outsource, but like, man, keeping it in-house and learning the process, you're going to learn so much. It's so valuable. It's a beautiful experience. Seriously, I think it's necessary. I think you'll do a way better job than someone else will in the long run. If you just start learning it as fast as possible. Now, you may have a feeling of, I don't know what the word would be for this, but imposter syndrome, because, and I dealt with this when I was starting out. Believe me, I wasn't just this perfectly, extremely confident being who had no insecurities. When I was 18, 19, starting this agency, I was pretty insecure, but I had enough confidence to overcome that insecurity of feeling like I wasn't worthy enough to receive this $3,000 or $4,000 per month that this client was paying me. Yeah, it was a lot of money, but I took that $4,000 that he paid me and I immediately bought the best course I could find and hired the best person I could find to just mentor me and teach me through consulting what the best strategies were. And I implemented those strategies into the client's business and helped them actually grow their business. And in seeing those results, and that's where the agency started to grow. So that's where my confidence came from. But I took that money the client gave me, I invested into a course and bought consulting and spent a ton of time researching and then implemented all those things I learned into his business, and that helped him grow his company. And I got pretty damn good at Amazon advertising for some time. Now, this is the easy part. Don't get lost in perfecting the how. I've talked to people before who are like, hey, I want to start an agency and I'm building my digital brain. I'm building my agency framework. I'm mapping out my service delivery. I'm trying to automate this operational stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. Like, how many clients do you have? No clients. I got no clients yet. I'm just mapping it all out perfectly. Look, the MVP, man, The Lean Startup. It's a good book by Eric Ries, I think it is. And you just want to be lean. You want to be a lean machine in the beginning because, man, you can get so wrapped up in trying to figure out the how, and it's all hypothetical. You don't have any clients. So don't spend more than 5-10 hours figuring out, learning about your service delivery. I don't care what you're doing. If you're doing product photography, if you're doing SEO, if you're doing PPC. Now, obviously, it helps if you buy a course by someone who can teach you the whole strategy of SEO. I don't have a course like that, but if you can buy a course someone who teaches you the whole strategy of SEO, service delivery, and all of this, then fantastic. That'll maybe give you more confidence. Okay, that's great. You can find that. However, I'm just saying you don't need to go down that path. I never went down that path. I never bought a course that taught me exactly how to do Amazon advertising. I just bought a course that it was Consulting Accelerator at the time that just showed me how to basically pick a niche and get a client. And Sam's wisdom is to just freaking figure it out on your own, and you don't need to know the how. Just start with the niche, start with getting the client, and you'll start to figure out the how as time goes on. Okay. And just know that, the client that originally paid me, the first client, I just want to touch more on imposter syndrome because this is a good mindset stuff for people who are nervous or freaking out about not getting their clients' results. What you need to understand is that, first of all, you can structure if you're really freaking nervous about not getting the client results, you can tell them, hey, look, I'm willing to give you a free refund. If you're not happy with my service by the end of the first month or second month, I'm happy to give you a full refund. All of the money, I'll send it back. But only if you feel like I didn't do the best job I could have done and the results really weren't there. Generally speaking, even if you did the best you could and the results really weren't fantastic, they, generally speaking, are not going to ask for a refund so long as you put in the work. But even if they did, it's okay. It'll remove your fear of not getting results. So don't worry about not getting results. And just know that you are the, more or less, even if you're just like 10% more knowledgeable than your client, if you're spending 40 hours a week trying to figure out advertising on Amazon for him, and he's only able to spend 1 to 2 hours per week, or he has no desire to spend any time on it because he wants to do other things in his business, then you're going to be better than him. Okay, it's simple as that. If you're going to go relentless and you're going to be insane about gathering information and trying to master your craft, you're going to be better than the client. And so technically, yes, you are more or less more of an expert than him. It's just that you're just getting started, and you're truly far from an expert, but you are better than him. Assuming this isn't some super smart client who knows ridiculous amounts about whatever it is he's hiring you for. That would be rare, though. So, ladies and gents, that is it. If you want to check out the playlist called How to Start an Agency, I recommend you do. But I recommend you, first of all, check out Trojan Horse Marketing, and you listen to the SMMA niche strategy, and you watch the Trojan Horse Marketing video. Those two videos are fantastic when paired with this super high-level bird's eye view. And there's, of course, more in the How to Start an Agency playlist. I appreciate you watching this video. There's only one thing I asked of you to do. It's to hit the subscribe button. Making this video for fun on a Saturday night. It's 11:07 p.m. I'm going to head to sleep soon. I was just kind of bored. So much love, guys. I'll see you in the next video.